All right, folks. I would like to welcome a good friend of mine, a real good friend of mine, former teammate, three-time Ivy League champion, and someone I consider my brother, NFL free agent Brandon Copeland. What's going on, Cope?
Can't complain, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I really appreciate you taking some time to hop on the inaugural episode of In the Weeds. Much appreciated. I had pulled the pin. And I took a couple months because I wanted to reset. I wanted a little bit more freedom to talk about the things that I wanted to talk about. And the first person I wanted to talk to was you. I've been hounding you for a couple months to try to get you on, so I appreciate it. I do know you're a busy guy. I'm not going to take too much of your time. I want to jump right into it. All right. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was your journey, particularly your journey to the Ivy League and then your journey to the NFL, to the pros. Now, some people might know that, your grandfather was Roy Hinton. He played for the Baltimore Colts back in the 60s and 70s, your hometown franchise, of course. Mm-hmm. And then you went to Gilman School. Gilman's a powerhouse. I think they might still be a powerhouse, but at least when you were there, they're one of the top teams in the country. So folks read that and they might think that, oh, this dude, he had access to the best coaches. He got the genes. He was always going to go to the NFL. Like, what's the big deal?
Right.
But we know that wasn't always the case. At what point did you know that you were a D1 college football player?
Good question, man. I think, shout out, I appreciate you shouting out my granddad, Roy Hilton. I think he instilled it in me early that I had an opportunity to go to the league. And one of the things he always impressed upon me was that you got to keep working hard though, right? Like you're not there yet. You have the potential to make it, but you got to keep working. And if you keep working and pair that with potential, then you can be really good one day. So I'd say I always had an inkling in my mind in terms of like later on in high school, literally my senior year, it was like, okay, like I feel like I have the ability to go there to the league, but that's not necessarily my dream because I was extremely afraid of banking on the NFL and it not happening. Me getting injured, me getting hurt, me not being good enough, and then being one of those people and players who, your life is crushed at that point. So I really knew I wanted to use football as a means to an end, went to Penn, and I think by the end of my sophomore season, actually Owen Thomas, shout out to RIP to the legend, man. I remember after a game, we played Lafayette. No, we played Villanova the next game. And, it was my sophomore. No, that was my freshman season. And I remember having a decent game against them. And I remember, him coming to me and saying, hey, Cope, like, I just think that you can play in the league. Like, you got some crazy talent. And fast forward a year later, it was my sophomore season. And, Owen, for those who don't know, Owen, he was one of the first documented cases of CTE, unfortunately committed suicide that the spring going into our sophomore season. But I remember going out and just playing free and just balling. And I remember it just came so easy, I worked hard, but like the instincts on the football field are what, it just came naturally to me. Right. Yeah. And I think that after that season, having that success is when in my mind, it was like, okay, I am comfortable saying I'm working for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't embarrassed about saying like you trying to go NFL in the Ivy League when a lot of other dudes on the team won't say that out loud, and they might even snicker.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think like you just said, the biggest thing was the snicker, right? Yeah. Like J. Cole, my favorite rapper, one of the things he says in the song Too Deep for the Intro, the very last line he says is if they don't know your dreams, then they can't shoot them down.
Yeah.
And I always just felt that like, all right, well, like, this might not be the time to share my stuff and just kind of take little comments and remarks and let people chip away at it.
Yeah.
And finally, by the end of sophomore season, even though, that was my dream, it wasn't that I was like, you remember coming onto the team. It wasn't like I was saying, hey, I'm going to the league. I'm going to the league. It was more of like, in my mind, I'm working for it, but I'm just, you don't get to the league without being good today, right? As a sophomore, as a junior, I think that's what a lot of people, unfortunately, one of the Coach Shafe, he was our D-line coach. We came back our sophomore year, we were going for that back-to-back championship. And in the summer, he said, a lot of people miss out on the journey because they're so stuck staring at the finish line. Well, if you keep staring at the finish line, you trip over that rock in front of you because you're so focused on that line. And so I always took that into account. Like, I knew that NFL was there, that's the finish line, but you don't get there unless you do the right things today and do the right things the next day and just keep stacking good days, as we say.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that because, I don't think you and I even talked about it. Maybe once or twice, maybe. But the whole time we played together, I don't remember ever talking to you about the NFL. But it's funny you mentioned that, because my next question was, okay, like, it seems that you knew pretty early on that you was a college level player. At what point did you know, I guess, or feel confident that you were a professional? Was it that sophomore year?
Yeah. I think we played Villanova that year, and they had Ben Ijalana, who I've actually been a teammate of Ben in New York with the Jets, and Ben was projected to be a second-round draft pick or something like that, and he was just everything. And I remember going up against him, and I remember, everybody talking him up. Villanova was the number one team in the nation the year before, and I had sprained my MCL or something like that. And I remember right before the game, everybody been hyping it up. Cope, you got to go against him, all these things. And I remember they trying to give me a knee brace before the game. And I'm like, man, this dude's supposed to be all world, and you just putting a big cut me here sign, right? Like, you just putting a big, like, hey, attack here. This is my weakness. Out of this thing, right? I remember taping it up and just saying, like, we just going to just go. And I remember just having a game, right? Like, spinning on him. He couldn't block me, all these things. Like, and for me, again, it was like, okay, this is a projected first, second round draft pick. If I can go like this on him, I can do that to anybody. And I think that, you have those moments throughout your whole career. I remember all-star games in high school, you're going against that kid from Ohio State, Penn State, all these things. And
exactly.
And balling. Every time I'm faced with those types of pivotal moments in my career, I've found a way to rise. And that's not like a braggadocious thing. It's just, that's the only reason why I'm here 9 years later, right?
That's what I was gonna say. It's not, you're not bragging. You wouldn't be where you're at if that wasn't the case. But naturally, there are also moments of self-doubt, I'd imagine. Times where you question yourself and question your abilities to make it. At what point would you say was a point where you question yourself the most?
Man, all the time. I question myself to this day. I think that, there's a video I used to watch before games in college. Actually, it's a Mike Tyson highlight reel, and he talks about how he's just all in training. I've envisioned this guy beating me. I'm beating him. He can beat me. He can beat me. I'm afraid of him. I'm afraid of him. I'm afraid of him. I'm afraid. I'm so afraid that he's going to beat me for the first time. And oh man, so that's what pushes him to train that fear of failure. When I walk into the ring, he literally says, "I'm a god." Right? Like, I'm untouchable. I'm unstoppable. Right? And I think that for me, that's literally, I literally used to watch that video every game before college, and it just reminded me how I was nervous before every game, nervous in preparation, but those nerves push me to train and prepare to be successful in the moment.
So you use self-doubt to push you.
100%. And I don't think I use it, right? Like, I don't think I can consciously turn it off. Well, no, I can consciously turn it off now. But like, it's just a natural, like, even today, I trained this morning going into my ninth season in the NFL, and I'm still wondering, am I a little too out of shape right now? Should I be in better shape? I look at my pictures from years ago this time, and I'm in the same exact shape, right? Like it's I'm in a great
except for Baltimore.
But naturally, it just that there's always that fear of like, did I do enough reps? Did I do have I done enough? Have I ran enough sprints? Am I in shape? But that's what keeps me to go more. And then when I do step on the field, it's like no one's outworked me. I gotta let's do this. I think to answer your question directly, however, what the difference between me now, and when I say now, for those who don't know my story, my first 2 years were roller coaster rides, and second year cut, you're not good enough after the second week, sat out the rest of the season.
You were back at Penn. You were back at Penn that year.
Exactly.
Hanging out.
not sat out voluntarily, sat out involuntarily because, hey, you're just not good enough for this league, kid. And the difference between the doubt that I had then versus the doubt that I have now, the doubt that I have now is in preparation and in preparation only. It pushes me to train my tail off. I still had that same doubt in preparation before then. However, that same doubt carried over onto the field. So even before the snap, before the play, I was that Ivy League guy wondering if I could cover Jacoby Jones, wondering if I could cover Rob Gronkowski, wondering if I could hold up this block because I hadn't been tested like that in the Ivy League, right? And that is that, what I guess if anybody takes anything from this, that is that self-doubt that is negative and can detract from your art, because you can't have self-doubt in the moment, right? Yeah. Like you can use it as a tool, but when you are in that moment, or what's worked for me, when I'm in that moment, I'm Superman, right? Like I've trained for this. Who line them up right now? Line up Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf. I know some people are listening like, whoa, yo, you tripping. I will strap them. And I believe that 100% wholeheartedly. And it's I'm going to use my tools. I'm going to use my strengths. I'm going to try to eliminate all weaknesses, and we're going to make it happen. But for me, it's literally one play at a time. Get the job done, reset, boom, boom, boom. All right, what's this play? What's the challenge now? Get the job done, reset, and just keep repeating that till you get to the end of the game, and hope you've done well.
You know, that's very interesting. DK Metcalf. I mean, I believe in you, Cope, but you know, I don't know. I don't know. No, but let me rewind you real quick, because something I had taken note of is you talked a little bit about the setbacks, and for me, you know, even though we all love football, I don't want to get too in the weeds about the football stuff, right? We could talk about that. I want to know a little bit about some of the lessons and some of the intangible things. So going to the setbacks. Of course, you've been cut. You've been told you're not good enough. You've had injuries. You've torn your pec twice. You had a suspension right when you was getting your feet in the league. I know that was heartbreaking for a lot of us. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you've been able to glean from those setbacks? You know, aside from, we talked about doubt, but you know, on the rebound, you know, what's some of the first things you tell yourself when you know your dream is you know, is slipping out of your fingertips?
Yes, great question. So I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. And a lot of people say they believe that, but when negative things happen, they, why me? Right. As opposed to like, this sucks. Definitely, you know, you need that time period to kind of drown out your sorrows, so to speak, and do what you need to do to cope. But you got to get through that and understand that this is happening for a reason and for a purpose. So whether it is a torn pec in the middle of the season when things are going well, or a torn pec the day after you've been finally proclaimed the starter, or a bullshit suspension that you don't believe that you deserve, and have fought your tail off to make sure that people know that you're wrongfully, you know, accused of those things and all of that type of stuff, right? Like, regardless of it, it all happens for a reason. So my choice has always been to lean into those things and find ways to be a better person coming out of them. A lot of people just kind of allow that woe is me period to last a little too long. Yeah. Right. Again, I think you need it, you got to take those days, that week, whatever it may be, to kind of just reset and like, man, recalibrate your mind. I was just on top of the world, and now I'm having surgery again. Man, I was just on top of the world, and now they talking about suspension. The same day they released the suspension after going back and forth in court and trying to fight it. With the appeal process, I broke my hand. A lot of people don't even know that. It got outshadowed by the suspension. I broke my wrist the same day. I don't even know if you can see
I can see it. I can see it. I never heard of that.
Yeah, but literally, so the day the doc was literally putting the joint back into, sorry, it's a little ugly right here, but yeah, the day
I see the scar.
doc was putting it back into it, get the email and the ESPN ticker. So regardless of it though, right, I choose to find a way to lean into it and become a stronger individual, because again, you can't claim that the good stuff is only purposed or only purposeful or only by design, and not think that the negative stuff,
the adversity,
right? A lot of the best things that have happened in my life have come as a result of during some of those periods, whether it be something as simple as my wife and I traveling the world together, or me starting a 6-figure real estate business, right? The first time I tore my pec, I started a 6-figure real estate business while being done, right? If I'm not injured and sitting through that process in that home board looking for something, then that may never happen. And I may never be, we just got some good news that we got a 66 unit building that just got approved today for Newark, New Jersey, right? We got a
Lord, stand up
40 unit, right? Like, again, like those things may never happen in 2021 if I don't go through that negative stuff in 2017. But more importantly, I know for damn sure those things don't happen if I don't lean into that. So that's the biggest thing, difference with me. The biggest thing I've learned is just lean into that stuff, right? Like,
absolutely,
you're in it for a reason, and really believe that. Doesn't mean you'll always know and understand exactly why, right? Like I tore my pec this year on field goal block. What? Why? Like how? Right?
Same pec?
Patriots. No, the other one, right? Like, how does this happen? And but ultimately, hey, it is what it is. We dust our shoulders off and figure it out.
It is what it is. It is what it is. And what a lot of people don't realize is that with the platform that you have, with all the positive, there comes negative, right? One of the interesting things, and I always find it funny that I even know you, because there's no secret, there's not a lot of Ivy League athletes in the NFL, right? And most of them are white. I think you might be are you the only Black Ivy League athlete in the NFL right now?
I know Karan Reed.
Oh yeah, Karan Reed.
I think it's with the Jaguars this year.
Okay.
But that's a very good question right there.
Right. I think if you're not the only one, you might be one of two. And with that, right, with that platform comes some positives and negatives and some responsibility, I'd imagine. How do you think being that representative, right? Because that's what you are. Like I've told you that pretty early on. No pressure, but I told you that early on. Like, I'm vicariously living through you, because there's not a lot of other dudes that traveled the path we traveled and made it to the NFL. What kind of responsibility do you think being the football player from the Ivy League, the Black football player from the Ivy League, and what responsibilities have come with that, both welcome and unwelcome?
Yeah, no, I think I'm fortunate because the pressure I put on myself, or the goals, I won't even say the pressure I put on myself, but the goals that I have for myself are so, right, like so far beyond what anyone else can put on me, right? So naturally for me, it just works out because, I naturally just embody what a lot of people want to see in this world, which, I'm blessed in that regard. I think what I try not to do is I try to make sure that I'm authentically living the dream the way I want to live it. And I think with that is where I've won, if that makes sense, right? Like, I think that there are a lot of people who feel that pressure, get those badges, get those titles, and even being a Black solo captain at Penn, right? There was a lot of, that was the first time I think I really felt the pressure of like, I cannot mess this up, right? Because now everybody's looking at me not only as a solo captain, but also a Black solo captain. So I can't get in trouble here. I can't do anything else because it's going to mess it up for you. It's going to mess it up for other guys coming behind me, right? And then that was actually probably a really good test, because now as I've come into the league, I don't even think about it like that. It's not that I'm not proud of being a Black man in America. It's more of I'm just hustling and I'm just working and I'm just putting it together and I'm just trying to help my people. I'm just trying to build the community. But I make sure that, especially in today's day and age, where I feel some of us get lost in putting on a show to act like we are in the struggle or with the movements in society or with the protests, whatever it may be, right? I've made sure to maintain, I'm going to do what I want and actually act on the things that I really care about. And I want to make sure I dive into that really quick. Like, there are a lot of people who asked me originally, like, hey, are you going to take a knee? Right? Like, well, yeah, I mean, I don't mind taking a knee, but like, that's just not my protest, right? Like, it's not that that's not my protest. That's not my way of handling business and doing work in the community. It's nothing that I have against it, but that's his show, right? Like, that's his show against what he's trying to speak out for. Yeah. For me, I have a football camp where we take 400 kids and I feed them. I get them book bags. I do. You see what I'm saying? So like, for me, I have my own things that I'm doing. It's, again, it means we can collaborate. We can bring people together. Like this Christmas, we did.
Yeah, I love that you're going into that.
Yeah, I brought 19 NFL players together, and we gave over 160 grand away to people, over 200 families in 19 different states, right? Like, so I think what I've learned, sorry, there's a very long-winded answer. What I've learned is I always have to be me, and I always have to continue to pull people up the ladder with me as I climb, but do it in my way. Yeah. Because I think that a lot of people get lost in, let me put a show on,
performative,
how I'm doing. Exactly. You're right. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. Well, yeah, there is something wrong with
there. There is something wrong. There is something wrong.
For me, it's like, let's see the action behind it. And it's not to knock anybody who's, like, let me just show a movement, or this is my way, this is my stance, to show it on social media or whatever. Yeah. Again, there's a lot of people who I'm sure wish I said a lot more stuff on social media, right? Like, I know that sometimes I'm literally at my phone like, man, should I say this, or should I repost this, should I reshare this? But I have to really think, like, is me reposting someone else's words, or if me saying this actually doing or getting accomplished what Brandon Copeland wants to get accomplished today? And I think that's the more important thing for people to take into account. And that's, regardless of your opinion, whether right or wrong, we'll see in the long run. But again, I think that the people that I've actually helped, I've actually fed, I've actually given gifts to, I've actually provided Christmases to, right? like I think that they know where my heart is, and
I'm not mad at that answer, because unwittingly by you went right into where I was thinking, because you mentioned some of the other things that you were doing that, that you felt weren't performative, right? And I always tell people, as a side note, is you either going to perform or inform, right? And sometimes you can find the happy medium, but, if you're trying to effectuate change, more times than not, you got to inform, right? Yeah. And something that you touched on was some of the things that you're doing off the field, and you jumped right into it, but you kind of didn't want to go into that. But that's exactly what I want to go into, beyond the basics. So since your first year in NFL, I remember like it was yesterday, because my first thought was like, yo, this dude barely made the team. And he got a camp, and he got dudes coming to the camp. It was a bunch of like DMV type dudes, but you had some dudes coming to the camp, and it was free. I'm like, where's he getting the money? Like, you know, he had the free camp for the kids. And I know since then it's blossomed and grown into you guys doing some really cool initiatives that aren't just for the kids looking to play football.
Yeah.
You touched on it this past December, Beyond the Basics. I don't want to step on it. What you guys do this past December, and what are some of the things that you guys are doing now?
Yeah, what we like to try to do in terms of, so first, and backtracking a little bit, I think my wife Taylor and I, we started Beyond the Basics Inc. a few years ago, and it really was to help young people realize their full potential. I'm not special. I work hard as hell. That's what I'm special at doing or having the ability to do. But other than that, I'm just fortunate to have had people in my life who said, hey, you can do this. Hey, look at this. Hey, look at this school. This is a possibility to you. So now I know what to put my hard work towards. So we wanted to do that for children. Along that road, we have found that there are a lot of foundations who kind of get handcuffed by their mission. So if they want to do, their mission says they want to do X, but they see a need over here in Y, they feel like they can't work in Y. Again, as I said earlier, I'm Brandon Copeland. I want to do X. I damn sure ain't spending my time working hard, putting my face to things, trying to build these things up bigger than just the average, to be told that, hey, you can only play in this box. If I want to go help feed them people over there, I'm going to go help feed them people over there, period. Right. Yeah. And so that's how we've grown. We started with the football camp, as you said. And I think that's what we've done differently than other people, is we've maximized the platform, used the network, used the connections, and then also been willing to learn and grow, and using the Penn education to figure out how do we do this better and smarter. I think, as you said, I knew that I know that I want to give back long beyond my playing years. And, there was a time where you didn't think we'd be sitting here before year 9, right? So
year 9, man, that's crazy. That's crazy.
So it was like, how do we do this bigger, better, and really impactful, so that anybody who's involved with this camp says, hey, I want to come back. I want to support more. I want to do more next year. So what we did this December, for example, we always try to take people, we call it a December to remember. We always typically we take kids to Target, and we sit down, give them a pizza party, and then we take them shopping, give them $200 shopping sprees. Last year, we tried to get friends around the league to do this in their cities, their team cities as well. So you're surprising a bunch of kids. We took over 300 kids shopping, gave them all $200 a piece last year. It's like 320 kids or so. This year with the pandemic, we had to go virtual, but we wanted to just take on the families, right? Didn't want to give children, we thought through it, didn't want to just give a child a $200 gift card and, half of it gets spent, half of it gets lost. So we really tried to.
And their family's struggling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or they just buy a bunch of games when they might need food, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we tried to find families. We found families. We work with 19 players across the league, over, I want to say, across 13 different NFL teams. Gave $800 Amazon shopping sprees to over 200 families across the country. And again, just leveraged not only the platform, but also just the will to collaborate. I think that's the biggest thing, is like, it wasn't about, when we do things, it's not about Beyond the Basics. It's not about me doing it. Now, you will see us doing media and marketing for these things. And I grew up thinking you should not be doing that stuff. You should not be giving and then taking a photo like, hey, look what I did, right? Mm-hmm. But what I also realized is, getting the ego out the way, it's not about me. It's not about the marketing, and it's not, hey, look what I did, right? It's more of, if we're able to do that and amplify and show these things, there are a lot of other people in the world who see that and say, hey, how can I help next year? How can I donate money? We can help this. And so we've realized that by doing that, that is how we've grown exponentially over the last few years. And ultimately, we help more people, right?
Yeah,
If we
absolutely.
done this years ago and not shared it at all, we'd still be taking 40 kids shopping at Target, right?
Yeah.
Now we've been able to, again, expand nationwide. And again, it's because we've been able to get out of our own way. And also we got people like yourself, right? Like who are willing to come and donate time, donate energy, donate effort, right? And that, you know, when you're good to people, they end up being great to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned it. People ask you, how do they donate? How does someone want to donate to your organization?
Yeah, go to brandoncopeland.com, go to Beyond the Basics tab. There's a Beyond the Basics tab there, and you can see all the things that we're doing and option to support. I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I wanted to make sure we did that. And I'm going to make sure I have that link in the show notes for y'all. If you guys want to make a donation and help out some kids, especially during what is a very difficult time in American history, definitely check that out. Something else that you're doing that that's obviously gotten a lot of media attention because of your background as an Ivy League athlete is your interest in spreading financial literacy, right?
Yeah.
You're one of the more pervasive names when media, ESPN, CNBC, when they're looking for athletes that are doing smart things with their money and they want to spotlight them, you're one of the first names to come up. What exactly, I know what you're doing, but what exactly are you doing with that? And what does it mean to you to be in a position to share financial knowledge? I'm in a very similar position and with my job with JP Morgan. What does it feel like to be able to provide knowledge to not only Black athletes, but just the Black community in general, folks that might not have access to that information?
Yeah, the democratizing financial education, right? It's really democratizing information and just trying to give everyone an equal opportunity to access, right?
Yeah.
I've realized that when I came into the league, I got a lot more friends. I got a lot more investment deal offers. I got a lot more tax strategy offers, some people for good, some for bad. But ultimately, it was just like, well, why the hell wasn't I? Why didn't you tell me about this last year? Right?
Why'd you wait till I was rich?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And the thing is, I wasn't even rich, right?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't even able to take advantage of these things that they were offering me. They just assumed I was because I was wearing a jersey, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, when I came out of Penn, I was signed to a 3-year, $1.45 million deal. I saw 26,000 of those dollars before being cut my first time, right? So it's just like, I really wanted to make sure that as I climbed the ladder, you know, I think that I just wanted to share the information that I was getting access to. You know, it's come a very long way in terms of what we're doing at Life 101, in terms of the curriculum we've actually built, right? And doing it at not only Penn, but then now opening it up to everybody. But originally it just started as like, I have access to this, or you guys are telling me this. Like, I want my mom to know about this stuff. Like, I want my brother to know about this stuff. And now, how do I make sure it also expands beyond them? Because what I'd find too is like we get information, and it's hard enough for us to learn these things and implement it in our own lives. But then, like, it's not what do they call it's not dinner table talk, so to speak, where
no one wants to talk money. It's hard. It's an awkward conversation.
Start talking about your investment portfolio or what you're doing with your high yield savings account or cryptocurrency or any of that stuff, right? Like nobody's trying to talk about that at the dinner table. So
white folk do.
Exactly. So now it's about how do we make sure that anyone who wants to have access to this information does. And what Life 101 is literally all the things we should be learning in schools, all the things we deal with in life, how to buy a house, your credit, budgeting, investing, retirement investing, wills and estates, insurance, good versus bad debt, all these different things that people have talked about and just assume that we know them or we'll figure it out, right? Like, why the hell aren't we learning that stuff in school? I refinanced one of my real estate projects a couple months. Well, no, we started to refinance a month ago. It just closed last Friday. But first, the stack of papers is like, 2 inches thick.
Yep.
And you can easily just like, you have no idea what you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
I would have been charged. I went through the closing disclosure because I do real estate. I go through the closing disclosure and I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, hey, like y'all charging me an extra $1,682 here.
Yeah, I saw that. You was
Y'all
talking about that.
Yeah, I'm like, hold up, over here, like y'all talking about home appraisal. We got the appraisal wave. Like y'all charge me an extra $495 here. What? Let me look at that. Oh, you know what, Mr. Copeland, you're right. Yeah, we'll remove that. They send it again 2 weeks later, and the stuff is still in there, right? Like, and if I sign on the dotted line, I
That's
promise
it.
you, we're never going to come back and say, hey, we overcharged you and all these things, right? Like, it doesn't happen that way. So again, I just think that like we all should. This is the stuff we should be prioritizing in our lives. Anybody who wants to come to class, we teach it virtually now. So you can come to life101.io, www.life101.io. The class is $12 a month, charged annually. So literally a whopping $144 per year. But you're getting access to not only me, my team. Literally, I had my accountant come a couple weeks ago. And ultimately, to be quite honest and blunt, like if you're not willing to invest $12 a month in yourself, you ain't serious about this stuff anyway. Right? Like, so absolutely. Like I understand that it's, again, I'm a dude from Baltimore. Like I understand that it's hard for some people. Some of us we can't even, scrape that together. And I get that. So we're also working on sponsorships where we can help take care of some people for sure. But in the meantime, I also realize like when you want to hustle, you find a way to put it together. So even I'm the type of dude, I'm going to find a way to make it happen. Even if I got to go on the corner and sell a bunch of waters, right? Like I'm gonna sell warm tea when it's cold outside, right? Like I'll figure out a way. So again, that's my thing is I want to make sure that when we're sitting there in class, we're with people who have invested in themselves. A lot of people think I've never invested before. Well, if you're in my class, like you've already invested in yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now we're going to build on that, right? So that's major, man.
Exactly. And on that note, what is something that you feel that you wish someone had told you a little sooner about money and managing your funds?
Tax strategy is everything. Tax strategy is everything, right? Like people get pissed at Amazon, Trump, all these folks, and I get upset with them as well, right? But you also have to understand, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? And figure out the game and play the game yourself. And that's, that's one of the things that, another J. Cole lines, either you play the game or watch the game play you and be that broke MF talking about I stayed true, right? Like that's major right there, right? Tax strategy has been huge. And I wish that, I knew about that a lot earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I could have saved a lot more money. And yeah, so that's huge. But yeah, I've learned so much. I'm still learning a bunch when it comes to this money thing. I definitely was investing early, but I think that, if I had a different investment strategy early, like that long-term focus, that long-term vision, instead of just trying to get rich quicker, I'd be well ahead of where I am now. Yeah, I spent so much time trying to day trade in and out of certain things that ultimately you definitely have your wins, right?
That gotta be a full-time job.
Yeah, but again, it's a full-time job and it detracts and distracts you from maximizing what really is your full-time job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the final thing that I say that I'm learning now, or is like it's really on my heart like this week and everything like that, is like don't let business get in the way of doing what you want to do in your art. And it's probably kind of goes along with what I was saying earlier about Brandon Copeland's going to do what he wants to do. I think as you grow and as you level up, I was watching something that Magic Johnson said, as you go up to another level, it's like, well, like these are different conversations. So I'm learning a lot of things for the first time, but like the deals that get my attention have to be on this level or above for me to be excited, right?
Yeah.
And I've let that understanding of business make me slow my actual art form and creation of doing what it is I want to do, what actually got me here, which was just doing stuff and then saying, hey, I'm already doing this. If you want to be on it, come on, I'll bring you along for the ride. Go ahead and sponsor it, whatever that may be. As opposed to now, I halted because I was more of, let me pitch projects before I do them. But unfortunately for, our community, a lot of people just need to see things over and over and over and over and over again before they really believe that you're real. Yeah. And so it is what it is. We just keep doing what we do. And then when we prove it to you again, the price has just risen on your ass, right? Yeah. Like it is what it is.
Price just went up. Right. It's and something to add to what you said earlier, just tidbit, because I'm a registered rep myself, and what I know is the folks that really have wealth in this country, what drives a lot of their decisions isn't necessarily getting a return, it's protecting their money, right? And protecting their money from taxes. Yeah. So I second Cope in that regard, that probably one of the most important things that you can do in the short term is understanding tax strategy and how to protect your money from tax, how to understand those little percentages that don't seem like a lot, 1%, 2%, 3%. Those make all the difference in the long term. Yeah. And a lot of folks don't understand that. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah. What are some actionable things in the short term that some of the listeners who may be receiving a $1,400 stimulus check, can do to make sure that stimulus check isn't a Mexican stimulus for Tulum and whatnot, right? Like what are some of the things that some smart things people can do with that $1,400?
Yeah, I would say, first and foremost, just going back real quick to the tax strategy, like you said, these are percentages that you're trying to save when you talk about protecting your money. Like, you've already worked hard for it. It is yours. If you can put more work into figuring out how to protect it, that is power right there. Like, yes, try to cut the phone bill, try to cut the internet bill, try to cut the cable bill, cut off a subscription or two. That is money right there too. We need that. But also, if you can cut 1% or say 1 or 2% on your, in terms of like your taxable income, that's probably going to be bigger than all of those other cuts that you made, right? So let's, one, think about that. Two, when we talk about actionable things, one, I would tell first and foremost, again, go to life101.io, go to the resources page. We have a budget there, a free budget tool that anybody can use. Go ahead, make a copy and use it for yourself, right? But take time to understand your why and your big picture. A lot of people, like you said, they're going to take their money and they're going to see, their vision will be from the day they get that check till a week from now, next week, 2 weekends from now. I know somebody that's about to get a tax return and, they've been struggling the whole year, right? About to get a nice tax return and asking, hey, can I borrow $500 for the weekend? What the hell are you doing spending $500 in a weekend, right? Like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't spend $500.
Don't put Chad on blast like that.
No.
I'll play Chad.
No, yeah, I'm with you though. But like, again, like it's definitely don't want to call them out or anything like that or make them feel ashamed at all. But there's a learning curve that needs to happen. Like, you got to see beyond the weekend and see like, okay, this is $500. Like, what am I really doing? Am I really about to blow this now? And again, I also realized now, with that being said, well, let me finish my thought. I'll come back to that. Like, am I really about to blow this 500 now and be stressed the rest of the year? Or am I going to take this money and figure out how to stretch it, how to give me a little more breathing room and figure out maybe how to flip it, invest it, whatever, right? Can I use this as a head start or a trampoline, a springboard, as opposed to let me see how quickly I can go. Let me go ahead and have some fun, right? Yeah. I think a lot of people look towards the fun, but don't realize, like, if I just stay down a little bit longer, like a little bit, right, I might be able to have fun for a longer period of time in the future. And that's what, again, that's what I hope people keep that perspective on. Now, with that being said, I also understand some of us, like, we're spending that money on survival things, right? Some of us are back paying certain things to keep the lights on, all of that type of stuff. And the money isn't life-changing money, to be quite honest, right? Like,
it's 1,400.
Exactly, right? Like, it's not, it's enough to maybe keep you afloat, maybe, right? For some people, it's going to be gone fast, especially once you're spending with kids and everything like that, other people in the household. So I do also understand that, and there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. So, again, like I would say, I'm really adamant about it. Like, come to class, right? Life101.io. Like, this class is for everybody. This isn't no financial guru bullshit where you talking about, hey man, live off of, save 50%, live off of 30, invest 20. Like, that doesn't work for everybody.
No,
that don't make no sense, right?
No,
like,
it doesn't.
So, yeah, like, don't give me the BS aspirations. Let's talk to the people in the room. Let's talk to the people. Let's give me advice that I can apply to my actual life. Right. So
yeah,
that's just what I would say is, like, hey, invest in yourself, right? Like, again, invest in yourself, figure out ways to see beyond where your shoes are today.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say, figure out a way to see beyond the basics. That would have been a great, thing. But listen, y'all heard it from Cope. When y'all get that stimulus check, go ahead and subscribe to Life 101. That's your actionable item right there.
Awesome. We had one student, we talked this past week, and she said, after doing the budget, after class, doing the budget and walking through it, she called with a couple of questions. Like, you get direct access to me, right? Like, people are literally texting me. My students are texting me questions. Like, we really in this together. She called and she was saying she did, based on the budget, she cut some subscriptions and certain things, and she's saving $80 per month now that she hopes to be able to take and apply to other things in life, right? Like
$1,000 a year.
Exactly. Like, the class is already paid for itself. Like, I'm happy as a professor. Like, the class is already paid for itself over and over. And that's not including now the money she's going to make as we teach her how to put that money to work for her, right? Like, so again, that's why I'm like, this is when people get into class, they realize, like, oh, this is different, right? Like, you got a real NFL player talking to you, teaching you these things. And it's not about my job or my career. It's more about me just look, my accountant's in the room with us, right? Like, my financial advisors are in the room with us, right? Ask them your questions, put them to work for you. Like, that's what you get with this service. So yeah, I'm proud of it, because again, like we talked about earlier, it's not about a performance. It's about, like, this
informing.
Exactly.
It's not about performing, it's informing. And it's funny, I can tell you're passionate about it. It's probably the most lit up your eyes have been the entire conversation is talking about this. So I can tell. Are you involved in politics, Cope?
I'm not. I mean,
you pay
attention? Politics, but I'm not. I'm not running for politician anytime.
God. I wouldn't be loyal to my listeners if I didn't ask you one politic question. All right.
That's fine. Let's do it.
As a citizen, right? Not as a pundit, but what are some things you would like to see from elected leadership moving forward?
Transparency, period. I know that there's certain things that politicians, like, you got to do. Well, there's certain things that leadership has to do. And sometimes I also realize, like, by trying to inform everything, you end up slow and actually solving some stuff. But I think the biggest thing that people should be asking for and calling for is just transparency in a lot of different things, a lot of different processes, right? That's the simplest, easiest answer. We'll see if that actually happens or not. But, again, a lot of those people are performing as well, which we've seen over the past, we've seen over all of our history, all these
seen a lot of it the past week too. So for sure.
Exactly.
For sure. We running up on time. I got one more question for you, and I'm gonna let you go. Mm-hmm. How does your body feel? What are your hopes for the season?
Good, man. Great. This is I feel really good. I'm ahead of schedule. This is a 6-month injury and rehab process, and I went to check in with the docs the other day, and you know, they were like, hey, I'm at 3.5 months out, and they were like, you look like 2 weeks from now you could play if you needed to. Like,
Okay.
feel good.
Good.
You know, so like literally I'm a couple months ahead of schedule, so feeling really good. For the season, I know for me, this is the biggest season where I am literally excited to just do me and be me. My career has been being able to play multiple positions. And so when you're playing multiple positions, that's while that sounds fun and cool, and that's versatility, you also just never get comfortable doing one thing, right? You
I
don't
know all about that. Yep.
yeah. Like you don't get to, as Bruce Lee said, you know, I fear not the man who's practiced one or 10,000 kicks one time. I fear the one who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. And so you'll never become a master at those things when you're moving around. And although that might be my career, and that might still be my potential reality this season, I'm excited to do things my way, right? I think what comes as you get older, and you know, you see, I was doing it on the field a bit this year, is like, it's not perfect. It's not, you know, it might not be the exact fundamental or the exact technique that, you know, you would have coached it up to, you know, the guy starting out, but the job is done, and the job is done damn well, right? And I think that's just the attitude that I'm taking in with it. Like, for example, people have always said, Cope, you play too high, right? Like, or I train high and then I play a little bit too high. Well, it's year 9. I'm not getting lower now.
You're not getting low in the year 9.
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so guess what? Let's just train this way. Let's breathe this way. And let's just maximize who Brandon Copeland is, right? I've always wanted a 6-pack. Never had a 6-pack. Most I can get is a 4-pack. I'm gonna go ahead and get that 4-pack, try to get that 4.5. But however, right, like, it is what it is. This is me. This is my body. I'm still gonna run through your face if you try me, right? And that's all that matters. And so I think that's
Marshawn.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing that I'm finally excited for. I'm excited for that opportunity to get on that field again, because last year I was just having so much fun, man. I was having so much fun playing, leading the guys.
I know,
having
man.
a good time. And then now, you know, this year is just let's not just pick up where we left off. Let's take it to another level.
Next level.
In 9 years, you know.
Absolutely. And Cope, man, it's been a pleasure. I'm really proud of you. I'm excited to see what comes up next. I know this is a big year for you, and you're gonna have a big year. I know it, and I appreciate you for joining us on In the Weeds. We'll shut it down from here. Thank you.
Appreciate you having me, Kev.
For sure.